hacked Magnus's computer. Do you see what happens when neither side provides clarification? The internet just goes bananas. We don't know what to do with ourselves. So the question is this, and there were a few more facts, which Hans elaborated on in his interview today, which I'm about to jump into. So Hans gave an interview after his game today, a result I will not spoil, and he said live on the broadcast, he said, I've cheated twice in my life. Openly candidly said that. He said when he was
That's what he tried to do to me, bro.
Title Tuesday, and when he was 16 years old.
No.
Hans was born in 2003. All right, his account's last used on chess.com.
Nobody shot me off.
And the important distinction that he said, so he's correct, 16, 17 years old. The timeline checks out. When he was 16, he cheated in random games. Games to climb the rating ladder, he said, to play against some of the top players in the world. He said he never cheated against Hikaru, always played honestly against the top players. When he was 12, I mean, you're 12. Like, you can't really even judge somebody when they're 16, right? But he admitted to that. But he said, and this was very important what he said it was an embarrassment, and that was a shame, and he lost friends because of that. And he has dedicated the last 2+ years to being basically a hermit at home. I mean, I don't know if that word has a negative connotation. And he lives out of a suitcase, has studied chess 8 to 10 hours a day, and has worked tirelessly to clear himself of the past and to be the best chess player that he could be. And to be in the situation that he's currently in, under the spotlight of and the microscope of potential, massive cheating allegations, he said it was, extremely demoralizing, and he was frustrated. And what is going on, folks? I feel like we're living in a Black Mirror episode. The thing is, there is legitimately no way to prove whether or not someone is cheating during a chess game unless they are getting assistance from someone in the crowd via signal, or from an earpiece, or God knows what. I don't know. It's all high-tech sci-fi stuff to me. And if you don't catch them, right? So he admitted to absolutely everything that he did in the past, and he said, "Leave me alone. I want to play my over-the-board chess." So people who are suspicious of Hans cheating over the board, how? What is your suspicion? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get into the head of the accuser here. I don't understand, folks. This is 9-3. But then there's the whole flip side. Well, Magnus Carlsen has never withdrawn from a tournament. Magnus Carlsen wouldn't put his reputation on the line, would he? But now that's an entire debate. People are like, well, Magnus is not going to defend the world championship. He's not. He left that. Now we see this. Oh, he's going on his Bobby Fischer arc. Folks, is anybody else confused beyond belief? I'm glad that I'm only talking for about 5 minutes. That's what's going on. Hans gave a very candid, honest, open interview, admitting to past mistakes and saying, "Leave me alone. I want to play over the board chess. I'll play naked if I have to." Hans, we don't want to see that. Not you're a handsome guy, but we don't want to see any naked chess players. He also said he would play in a box to prevent electrical interference. He has volunteered everything. The kitchen sink. Put him in a bubble. One of those bubbles, Folks, I don't know what's going on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is completely nuts. Hans also mentioned that his future tournament participations are going to potentially be limited because of this. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect. This is the update. Hans Niemann has spoken. Hans also brought up a couple of things like his accent. He said that he lives out of a suitcase.
Where the fuck? Did you see where my reds went?
He analyzed this position.
Yeah, they disappeared. I shot Venna.
He had mentioned that the way to beat Ferrugia is to attack him.
I don't know what that fucking guy is doing, but I'm definitely recording so I can watch. I shot him with fucking 2 reds on the fucking Rainbow Road fucking hill, and that motherfucker still got away somehow.
I don't know if the lightning took it away or what, but yeah, he fucking...
That was his analysis of those 2 games. Now,
dang,
is that a fair update? I think I said everything I wanted to say. I don't know, folks. Do we owe Hans Niemann an apology? Like, I'm saying our community. I thought I'd give a very level-headed take. Everybody else? Good lord, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. I really feel like we're in like a dystopian movie where just nobody knows the truth. For the life of me, I just hope Hans is innocent. But then
no, if you lose, it's because
what happens to
it's not Pig's fault.
Oh god, I don't even.
Okay, that's fine, Wilder, but you're like way behind anyway.
The 5th round of action at the Singfield Cup.
No.
Okay, can we just flip the switch real quick? We will cover Hans Niemann's game, of course. We had a Petrov variation from MVL and Nepo. Nepo has played the Petrov a lot. We had a line where many things got traded.
We're about to see where this goes.
And I believe this line was seen either in the... Yes, I think it was in the candidates.
I'm watching.
F5. Or maybe a Wang Hao game recently.
They have to hit him.
Wang Hao played this with the black pieces. So white gets a pretty pleasant position from the early opening. But black is always equal. You may notice that this could have been taken with check. But actually after King H8, white can now no longer avoid a devastating attack. Not a whole lot.
Of course, you
happened in
fucking
this game as
bitch.
the players traded pieces and then queens, and MVL tried to advance a little bit on that side of the board, but he was never able to break through. Black position was extremely solid all the way through.
Oh
and
my
the
fucking
players
jeez
decided
Louise.
to
Fuck
shuffle
this
back
game.
and forth between moves 30 and 33. I really kind of get the feeling, and I might be wrong, I really kind of get the
Fucking
feeling that some of
dumbass
these guys just want
details
the rest
fucking out of nowhere.
tomorrow. There's no Singfield Cup tomorrow. It's just...
Like a weapon for the life of me.
And yeah, they just
Vena is just like
and I kind of
throwing fucking green.
as a spectator of this drama.
And missing me every time.
Yeah.
They hit me every time.
So the next game that I have for you.
Oh really?
Wesley So
Yeah, I've been
versus
hit with 2
Levon
fucking
Aronian. This
single
one was
fucking
a
greens.
Catalan. We have seen this opening many times.
Missing all the
takes on
oh,
C4.
fuck you.
And now a very
Oh
forcing line
dude,
by
I just
black, C5.
passed Vena.
Castles, knight C6. We have
Oh
DC,
my god, he's so good.
and a line that has been studied to the death. And basically the whole point here is that there are 2 pawns on the queen side for white that are split. And white's gonna try
Vena's
to
so
like,
fucking
inch them
good,
forward
dude.
a little bit, as well as just apply pressure to black's position, who kind of lags in development with this little ugly bishop. So we have knight FD4. This has been played
In a
many
second.
times. It looks like black is just gonna suffer for a long time. I'm tripping over my wires again. So we have rook b8.
I just beat Vena.
And
Bitch.
a lot of just
Just
general
kidding.
improving moves here by Wesley, who's asking many questions. This is a
Fuck
very
you
nice
both,
move, by the
everybody.
way. If rook takes
Fuck you
c5 is
both,
played,
everybody.
bishop
Fuck you,
f4
man.
is quite nice. And there's no way for black to prevent some losses here. If you play knight to
Alright,
d7,
so
I'm
count
gonna
the
take-
score. 5,
I'm
10,
gonna give you
15
this
plus
check.
12 is
And,
27
good luck
plus
ever
5.
moving again.
I got 32. Vena
that'll
got
not
27
work.
plus 8. Gosh, damn.
and,
27 plus
yeah.
8 is already 36
Well,
or
Levon
35
kinda
plus
equalized.
3. He got
Wesley
38.
advanced a little bit on the queen side.
So,
And tactics started flying in the position. You'll notice
anyway,
knight takes c5,
I gotta
there's
go,
this and
but
this.
take a picture of it.
Bishop
Nobody
A3.
posts it.
Big trade, and we head for an endgame where Wesley's gonna potentially win a pawn. But there's forks all over the place. This pawn's falling, this pawn's falling.
Alright, I'll
and
talk to you
took
later.
43
Love you.
moves in
Bye.
this one, but another 2-on-3.
Later, Booth.
Wesley had this a couple of rounds ago against MBL, or maybe it was in the last round. And the players draw this, like they don't even play this out. This is just a theoretically known draw. King in 3 versus king in 2 is known because you get the Philidor position. If you don't know what the Philidor position is, that's all right. That's all right. I'm really, I'm honestly, the same thing happened in the last video. When I boot up these videos, I don't edit them. You know, I one take them, and I just wanted to get my entire point across in the early monologue. You know, and I think I did. I think I said everything I wanted to about the incident, the ongoing developments, and yeah, the most frustrating thing to me, and probably to many of you, is the fact that theories are going to spiral out of control until we have truth or clarification, and I don't know if we'll ever have both, or either. Like, once negative information is out there in something like chess, like, oh, he's cheating, you can't disprove that. Because if you're already not cheating over the board, right? Yes, Hans talked about the online stuff, but if you're not cheating over the board, like, you can't disprove, like, you can't, you know what I mean? Like, you get stripped naked, right? Is it?
They had a field there.
But if it, oh god, I don't know. Only they know.
Booth is moving through
Mami
the
Diara
daisy.
Fabiano. Okay, now we're in for a very exciting game. Are you ready for this game? How many of you are here at 11 minutes? Let me know. Put a little timestamp, let me know. I like to read the comments and see what's up. This is the Rogozin. This is one of the most aggressive Queen's Gambit decline variations.
Oh,
Takes,
God.
takes, and now bishop f4. Now, there are many ways for black to play this position, and Fabiano Caruana chooses the I'm going to punch my opponent in the face variation. Knight e4 attacks the knight. This defends. And here we have seen this. We've seen G5. Fabiano plays a move that has never been played, I think. It's been played twice. Like, literally over the board 2 times. Maybe. The best move here for white is H4, which if you play, you should be... You know what? I always make jokes like, if you play, you know, you should be checked for fair play. But given the ongoing stuff, I don't think I should make jokes like that. Knight D2. The point of this move is to block the pin and try to trade the knight off. Fabiano's like, sure, what's up? Nice rook. Shock's like, I'm not going to give you the rook. Castles. All right? And now, you know, any normal person here would just finish their development, right? No, G5, F5. I'm just going to push all my pawns in front of my king. White is threatening to trap... Black is threatening to trap white's... By the way, where is Magnus? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just have so many... Is he still in his hotel in St. Louis? Did he leave? Is he on a plane? Is he, like, talking to his legal team? You know what? Like, what is going on? It's, oh, my goodness. So many questions. Anyway, yeah, look at this. I mean, what is... What the... It looks like 2 600s are playing this game. No disrespect. I mean, it just looks so goofy. It's not bad. It just looks goofy. Well, you guys want to know something insane? So, Shock sacked this pawn and then went to win it back with knight f1, knight takes e3. Fabiano played c5, which is the top engine move. After this, takes, and the king gets hunted out here. You guys want to know something completely insane? Fabiano Caruana had this entire position in his preparation. 21 moves. And in this position, Fabiano had more time on the clock than he started with. Because they get bonus time every move. How savage is that? Isn't that insane?
Trying to throw him back.
What an absolute psychopath. Like, what a savage. And it gets even more interesting because here he plays queen takes f1. He sacrifices his whole queen because if this, then bishop g4, king e3, and rook f4, and there's no way to stop losing your own queen. But there actually is. You sack with check, and then you go here. And after bishop takes d4, you have this, and at least you lose it, but you get everything.
Yes, you know what
even is that? Oh my god. Okay, well, Mamedjarov goes here. And, you know, as sometimes happens in these positions, if your opponent survives the absolute minefield of preparation that they have to walk through, it's going to be a draw. And it's rook and bishop and 4 pawns each. And opposite
3 stars,
games where the balance is 1 pawn, and even sometimes 2 is still a draw. So the players just make a draw. But I mean, folks, what? This was in his prep? 21 moves? This is, I mean, come on, now you see. What is this rating Fabi has? 25, 60, 25, Jesus Christ, I'm not trying to take away 200 more points. 27, 60. Come on, he's supposed to be 2,800. Like, Fabi, please, the whole world's cheering for you. Get up there. Like, you know, people, the whole world cheers for guys like Ding the Red, you know. I feel like the whole world also cheers for Fabiano Caruana. Like, no one's ever sat down and went, I hate Fabiano Caruana. Maybe some. But I feel like the whole world cheers for him. Anyway, this was a draw. Even though it was a bit more exciting than the others. It ended with kings.
No
they made a draw.
For you.
Opposite colored bishops, they played out the whole thing. And like good sport, look at this very funny move, bishop c4. Trying to trade the last pawn. Yeah, so the last game was the Hans Niemann game. And I think I've said everything I wanted to say about Hans.
Yep.
Very honest and candid interview today, and
oh wait, that was you. I thought it was gonna be him.
I have no idea what we have to expect in the future. I mean, is Magnus never gonna play in a tournament where Hans plays? Is somebody actually gonna pat down Hans? Like, how does that even work? I've heard stories of big tournaments where people have been accused of cheating, went to a bathroom with a tournament director of the, you know, it wasn't anything suspicious, and then like stripped into their, you know, underpants. Like, that just seems absurd. Anyway, this was a line chosen by Linier Dominguez, and this line has been played many times, but here we start kind of drifting. So Hans plays knight e7, and the main move here for white is knight f1. Because if white tries to take advantage of the fact that the knight has moved out of the center, black actually will go back to c6, which is fascinating. And as Hans described in his interview after the game, there was a very similar game between Alexienko and Caruana and the candidates before Nepal won. not.
Alright, I'm enjoying too much on his screen.
The first time.
Start racing.
But we had bishop b3, and Hans played a new move. He played c5. This was just a complete novelty. I have 55 games in the database, and this is the best move. So knight f1, bishop e6. But Lanier seemed to have gotten the better of the opening, and I think Hans must have misevaluated something because he got clamped. Okay, I'm talking Kawhi Leonard, fourth quarter defense. Black has no play here at all. The reason for that is if Black plays the very typical plan of putting the knight on f4, like let's say White just, I don't know, plays king
get him,
like,
get him,
like this,
yes.
then Black, well, okay, then Black is gonna sacrifice on h3.
Reverse the item.
Right, like this is Black's major plan, and then queen h3 and some big attack, and probably checkmate pretty soon. The problem with that is White is gonna nerf that before it even happens. So you now cannot play knight f4. If you take with the bishop, you cannot sacrifice here. If you take with the knight, you're forced into a trade. So Lanier shuts down the major kind of play point that Black has here. And Hans' haters must have been rejoicing because, you know, he just got not a great position after 20 moves.
Come on, mess up.
But then he started fighting back, so he traded off his worst piece. Something obviously didn't work in the position. And then, you know, rook f5, rook b1, and Lanier was just in the driver's seat. I mean, he rerouted the knight, he closed the center, and he just got an absolutely beautiful and breathtaking position. Like, Black here is playing fortress defense. So he's putting both rooks like a, you know, like a laser beam on that rank, and he's like, you just can't break through. And Lanier's like, yeah, I can. I'm going straight down the middle. So you can't guard this. If you try to, then I'm gonna go out this way. So we get a position here after 35 moves where, I mean, Hans is just completely lost. And this is the position. Lanier has to give a check here and hit the king. And basically, no matter where Black goes, there, you know, Black's in a lot of trouble. You really don't want to go here. That just seems ridiculous. And the reason for this is a combination of this and this. There's just no way to stop this. You could do this, but I'm gonna play rook b7, right? So, maybe not right away, but maybe I'll like just try to bulldoze you down the middle. Yeah. So, for the life of me, I do not understand. Like all this chess tournament drama aside, I don't really understand why knight e6 wasn't played. There's like some variations here. Hans, in his interview afterwards, said he didn't think he was immediately lost. I can only imagine that he also did. You know, he must have. Yeah. Lanier must have also thought that, but Stockfish is yelling at both of them going, are you both completely nuts? It's +5. Like, Stockfish just thinks that Black's position is completely lost. Lanier goes for a rook endgame instead, and he didn't take because I guess the king was coming. I guess Black just activates his king, and despite being a pawn down, has very good activity. So, instead of that, Lanier goes for a rook endgame, and all his winning chances disappear. So... yeah, I mean, Hans has been on the better side of advantage in 4 games out of the first 5 in this event at some point. But this game, Lanier showed up with very, very nice preparation. Hans kind of played the first different move and had to defend the worst position, but he defended, and Lanier had one chance on like move 36 and he never took it. So this game also ended in a draw. In a nutshell, the games that we saw today were not the most exciting. Under normal circumstances, when there are 4 draws in a chess tournament, you know, the recap is kind of boring. And today's recap isn't boring as much as it's really hard for me to speak about. Because I'm just so concerned with what's going on in the chess world. I said this in yesterday's video. One of 2 things is the reality. Magnus did what he did, right? Put out that cryptic tweet.
Still getting laughed like by computer players.
And there actually is legitimate cheating, not just the online stuff from being, you know, a silly teenager. Or he put that out and there is no cheating.
I think he completed a shortcut.
And neither one of those is a good situation.
I don't even know what a penalty would be for doing a shortcut in a non-shortcut.
You know what I mean? There's no winners here. So, and the internet's got to stop with these prep league theories, guys. Like, I was shocked at how many people who know, you know, it reminded me of my own drama.
Yeah.
Some of you may not even know about this. I mean, how many of you remember the whole Indonesia thing, early 2021? There's articles about it. It was basically a case where I played someone who was banned for cheating, and then I was accused of having mass reported them because I was mad that I lost to them. But they, at some point, won 27 games in a row with an average score of 95%. You know what I mean? Then they went live and they played some. It was a whole story. But in the early stages of that, when nobody really knew a whole lot, I was being accused of so many different things, but nobody had the full facts. And right now, I feel like we're way too many droves of people are forming too many facts and theories and whatnot. But the major problem is we are not getting any clarification.
Weird Luigi down there too.
On either side.
Yeah.
Until today. Today, Hans Niemann spoke his truth. Now we have clarification from one side. We need something from Team Magnus. I mean, we need something. And I think this is only going to get crazier. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully this was a good recap. Hopefully I spoke as honestly and fairly on both sides as I could. I don't know what else to say. We're about to find out. Tomorrow we have a rest day from the Singfield Cup, and I think even God needs a rest. The chess gods need to take a smoke break. Right? I'll see you all tomorrow for regular videos, and in a couple of days for back to the Singfield Cup. Get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, in all of your time consuming chess content here on YouTube, have you ever sat there and wondered, what are the easiest openings to learn? Why are there so many openings? Which openings should I avoid? Well, be glad that you clicked on this video, because today I am going to give you, based on my many years of experience teaching chess, the openings that you should absolutely avoid adding into your repertoire.
But I guess you won't
judging
get
openings based on three criteria. Number one, how easy are they to understand? And what I mean by that is, if you had to explain the opening to a beginner, can you explain all the plans? Or are there like 20 of them depending on how your opponent responds, right? There is a difference. Number two, practicality. How easy is it to learn this opening? Are there 30 different variations? Are there sidelines by the opponent that are also pretty decent, right? How much time do you have to study openings during the day? That all determines whether an opening is practical or not. And the last one, how common is it? Let's say you fulfill the first step, which is learning all of the variations. Are you actually going to get this opening? Do people at your level even know how to play these openings? So based on those three criteria, let's jump into today's video. We are going to start with 2 openings with white, and then we are going to start with 2 openings with black. I mean, we're going to end with 2 openings with black. And then I'm going to give you a bonus. It's the best kind of clickbait. I clickbaited you. I'm actually going to give you 5 openings instead of 4. First one is the Ruy Lopez with the white pieces. E4 on its own is a great move. E5 is a great response. But if you get to this position, and by the way, you don't even have to get to this position, you can play a different second move. Why on earth would you play the Ruy Lopez? Who do you think you are? You think you're some 2,700 grand? Do you even know what the Ruy Lopez is? It is one of the most complex, positional, well-explored openings by some of the... Is it climbing Mount Everest? You can't even take a hike in your local forest without getting tired. Why are you trying to climb Mount Everest? So, the Ruy Lopez main line is... The whole idea is to apply pressure to this and this. And the best part is you can't even take that. Because in this position, there is Queen D4, forking you. So, after bishop back to a4, there is a variation which is taking the knight, but I digress. The main line of this position, alright, according to the Lichess Player Database, is something like c3, alright? And even if you get to this position, which is the main line, black has about 5 options here. Now, let's say we go a couple of moves back, and black plays the marshal, because this is a very aggressive pawn sacrifice line. Well, after white grabs this pawn, according to the Lichess Database, white loses 70% of the time. So congratulations, now you need to avoid what is known as the marshal, right? So now that you're done learning something against the marshal, well, you might play an anti-marshal, you might play the move h3 here, or something like that. Now we need to go all the way back, okay? The chances of you even getting here after a6 are not high, because black might play the Berlin. Now you need a weapon against the Berlin defense. You need to learn castles. What are you going to learn? You're going to learn the Berlin endgame after d4, knight d6, bishop c6, dc, de, knight f5, queen d8, king d8? You're going to learn how to play the Berlin endgame? Or are you going to play an anti-Berlin and now learn all of black's other variations? By the way, what if black doesn't know any openings and plays queen f6? Do you even have a weapon against queen f6? You can't just continue in the same style, because this is not a great move, but it has to be punished appropriately. Like, you know, here, you know, if you're going to play c3, d4, that might be okay, but you have to play this now because there's a queen here. If you play the move c3 here, it's not going to pack the same punch, because the whole point of this... But what if black plays g5, g4? You know? I mean, now all of your study is completely out the window. A lot of people here play the move bishop c5, for example, which is not a good move either. Right? Some people play the bird's defense. You know how to beat the bird's defense? Right? And like, let's say a person with black is preparing Against the Ruy Lopez, they might play some sideline. Let's say after a6, bishop a4, black plays any of the other major defenses. The deferred Schliemann, the deferred Cozio, all right? There's some sideline like this with knight a5. This is some variation too. It's called like Norwegian variation, where you can just grab this bishop. It's some sort of pawn sacrifice by black. I mean, there are so many problems with learning the Ruy Lopez for white. And remember my scale? Is it a practical opening to learn? No! Absolutely not! No! No, it is not practical. Is it common? Well, sure, I guess, because this position is common, but are black's responses common? Good luck. Good luck building any consistency in the repertoire that you're going to practice, right? Is it common? Okay, maybe. Is it practical? Absolutely not. Is it easy to understand?
Oh, he used it against me. Yeah,
huh? Is it easy to understand? Don't lie to yourself. And what I mean by this is, let's go back to this position. There are two options here that are so much easier to understand. The Scotch is so easy to understand. The Ponziani might be even easier to understand. The whole point of the Ponziani is to go here. And here you don't need to learn 20 different setups. You need to learn d5 and knight f6. Everything else is bad. Against d5, you can learn a very tricky line, queen a4. Against knight f6, you can learn the gambit with d4, giving up this pawn. And that's just one of the options. You can play the Italian. The plans here are much simpler. Your bishop doesn't have to dance around the board. All right, you can go for a fried liver with knight f7. I mean, of course, then you have to learn the main line of the fried liver. Sure, it's very forcing, but you don't even have to do that. You can just play d3. All right? This is even much easier to understand because at least the game plan is hitting the f7 pawn, although Italian and Spanish positions can be very close. But in general, if you play more forcing like the Scotch, you have to learn like 2 lines here. At most 3, okay? I mean, the Scotch is much more forcing, it's much more practical. The chances that you get to build consistency as you play your openings is so much higher with the Scotch. And folks, let's not even forget, you don't even have to play knight f3. You can play the Vienna. This is my favorite opening with e4, e5. It wins about 60% of the time in my students' games. All right, people who play the Vienna. You can play a King's Gambit or a Danish Gambit. You can force the game to a position that you will get 80 to 90% of the time in the first 5 moves. When you play the Ruy Lopez, you have absolutely no control over how black is going to play here. None. Again, stop thinking that you're some 2700 rated player. Again, you might disagree with me. I said that in the introduction. You might like this opening, but there are better options out there that will give you greater success, an easier understanding of your opening, and it will be far easier to learn. But some of you are up for the challenge, so I cannot stop you. The next opening I have for white, I did not have an easy time choosing openings for white. But the next opening I have for white is a little bit more brief. My explanation is going to be a little bit less thorough, a little bit less intense. Stop playing the English. Let me tell you why.
Damn it.
The best move against the English is not a bad opening, but the best move against the English for black is e5. And I suggest that you begin with knight f3. If you want to play the English, play the move knight f3. The difference between starting with knight f3 and c4 is the fact that committing a pawn is less flexible than committing the knight. The knight is going to go here. Knight f3 is the best, according to the meta, first move for white because you do not commit any pawns and the knight will go to f3 in like 99% of openings. You can now play the move c4 depending on what black plays. If black plays knight f6, well now you have an English. And then you can just go back to playing knight c3, right? The thing about playing c4 is that e5 is very good. It's a very good move by black. And according to the Lichess database, a lot of people here after knight c3, knight f6, play the move g3. And the best move for black after g3 systems is to attack the center with c6, d5. I have struggled with this with white. This is the most common position after 5 moves by white in the English and Lichess database. White is worse here. This position is minus 0.7 for black. And it's actually like even worse if d4 is on the board. Like if black finds all the best moves, it's like minus 1. This is the most common position. People have no clue what they're doing when they play the English. If black puts 2 pawns in the center, white is going to get a terrible position after knight c3, d4. But that doesn't even happen, right? So people who play the English think that they can just put the bishop here and then put the knight. No, if you want to play the English, I recommend starting with knight f3. Because after d5, you can still play the English. Now here you may need to learn the captures variation and the d4 variation, Here you can play for e3, but if you don't want to allow that, just go here first. Then play for c4. So you get an advantageous move order against the position that is considered the best for the opponent. When you play knight f3, you prevent the move e5. The most popular position here for black, the most common move here for black is the move knight c6. It's already +1 for white after d4, c4. It's now a Chigorin defense, but nobody with black actually knows that. They just accidentally set up in a bad way. So, starting with knight f3 and then playing in English might be the better way to go. The drawback is that the knight goes to f3 first, and this is very advanced now, but let's say you play the English, and against this you play the 4 pawns attack against the king's Indian defense. Or you play something without knight f3. Then knight f3, you've sacrificed that option. That's extremely advanced, and that's something that you have to deal with. Also, if you have some weapon against king's Indian defense, you might as well play d4, but c4 allows e5. And my problem with this is that nobody knows what they're doing here when they play with white. They just play like this, and the database shows that black has this opening to play c6, d5. Black doesn't do it, but you watching this video right now will know that, and you will start playing this against the English. c6, d5 is the best way to play. You just have to build your repertoire behind it. Right now, people are still playing all sorts of, garbage. They're playing, d5 is not garbage, but people just sort of develop and then just get a very bad position because they have no clue how to play against the English. If you want to play against the English, add the ready move order to your toolbox. Otherwise, you're really leaving the door open for people to take the center with e5 and then further take the center with d5. That's just all I'm saying. All right, the English is good, the ready is good. I prefer the ready move order over the English one because I think it cuts back a lot of options that black has. Now we will look at two things with the black pieces. Okay.
Damn, you got the
Folks,
better item. Fuck.
Stop, for the love of God, playing the Najdorf Sicilian. I know what you're gonna say. I mean, there's a lot of good courses out there by 2700s. Yeah. Those courses are unbelievably impractical for like 99% of the chess audience, okay? If you're like 2,000 over the board, yeah, of course. At that level, everybody's studying opening theory. The Sicilian is fine, and I will give you some things that I think score well in the Sicilian. But guys, you are not playing in the Oops, sorry, that was one of them. I just spoiled it. Don't play the Najdorf. You have so many better options. The Najdorf, of course, is after d6, d4, open Sicilian by white, takes, and now we have this. Okay, why is the Najdorf complicated? Because in this position, white has 15 options! Did you know that? Did you know that in this position, white can play,
damn it.
Bishop e3, Bishop d2, Bishop g5, Bishop e2, Bishop d3, Bishop c4, Knight b3, Knight e2, f3, h3, h4, Rook g1, g3, a3, yeah, all of these things are moves. All of these moves have been played before. And you have to know how to play against all of them. And there is no clear-cut plan. Like, yes, okay, it's to play b5 and maybe e5 and then put your bishops out. But there are so many better options. There are so many better options. By the time you learn 5 lines, now your opponents aren't even playing the open Sicilian. Here's another problem with playing the Sicilian defense. The Alpine Sicilian to play d4, like in the Ponziani. Do you know what the 3 most popular moves here on Leech's database are for black? Knight c6, which is +1 for white after d4, d6, which is +1 for white after d4, and e6. Nobody even knows what to do after the second move of the Sicilian defense. Why are you adding one of the most complex, layered, intricate openings to your toolbox, and you don't even know how to play it past the second move? Stop lying to yourself! If you want to take the responsibility of learning d5 or knight f6, which are the only 2 possible lines after c3, and then what if I play b3? What if I play a3? What if I play g3 or f4? Right, there's so many options. What if I play the close Sicilian? What if I play the Grand Prix attack? What if I play some idiot Sicilian, which people are doing nowadays by like taking and then moving the queen to e3? A lot of top GMs are playing like this now, all right, just to get people out of theory. There are so many better ways of learning the Sicilian defense. And wing gambits, I haven't even added wing. It's just unbelievable. It's like the Rue Lopez, right? You don't even know how to make toast. You want to make some sort of, specialized truffle dish with a little caramelization. Shut up. You're going to blow the kitchen up. Okay. So in my opinion, the easiest Sicilian to learn with black is the Dragon Sicilian or the Khan Sicilian. So if you want to stick to d6, in my opinion, the best Sicilian to learn in this position is not to play a6, but to play g6. You can at least kind of have no idea what you're doing. play bishop g7 in castles, but according to the statistics, the best Sicilian defense for black is the Paulson Khan Sicilian. It is e6, followed by d4, and then a6. This Sicilian scores like 55% according to Licha's database, which is very impressive. And the point is that you stop the knights from jumping into your position, and then you can do something like this. You can play bishop b4, and this scores really well. You should investigate the Khan, K-A-N, Sicilian a little bit more. It's very easy to play, it seems. It seems like black gets a lot of success because you sort of prevent white from making natural moves. If you want to add a Sicilian, I recommend this one. But again, you need to learn how to deal with c3, and you need to learn how to deal with all the sidelines. If you can get past that responsibility, then you are eligible to play the Sicilian, and you have my blessing. But again, the Sicilian is incredibly difficult. So difficult, folks. I mean, my God, it's like there are so many sidelines. And again, it turns out that people are already losing on the second move by playing like this. This is just not good. It's plus 1.6 in this position. You cannot be plus 1.6 after 4 moves. You can't. Stop doing that. So you can learn the Sicilian, but you need to know what you're doing. Don't play the Najdorf. Nobody even knows what's... Even the best players in the world don't know what's going on in the Najdorf, and they play it all the time since they're 5 years old. So those are my thoughts on the Sicilian defense. And the last one I have for you is, so stop playing the Queen's Gambit accepted. First of all, I would recommend against d4, you learn either a system opening like the modern defense, but then of course you have to learn how to get back into e4 positions. Play the Indian defenses. Put the knight on f6, and then play either like this, and try to play the Nimso, or the Queen's Indian, or try to play the King's Indian, or the Grunfeld, which is actually going to be my bonus opening. Spoiler alert. The reason is, nobody has any idea how to handle the Queen's Gambit. Your options after the Queen's Gambit are severely limited. They are to play the Queen's Gambit declined, which is just incredibly boring, and you need a weapon against the Catalan, which is one of the most annoying weapons in the world. It just really is. It's so hard to play against. So I would recommend playing knight f6. Now, a lot of people also play the Semi-Slav, which is just, I mean, it's good, but it's also incredibly difficult to understand. Very restricted position that relies on getting pawn breaks later in the game. And yet, don't take the gambit on the second move. I mean, this is the second most popular move in this position, and it's very close to being the most popular move. This is not a free pawn. Now, the most common position here after 8 moves, according to Lichess, is this, where black is just already lost. Like, black has no idea how to fight back here. This position is already plus 1.3. That's not good. That's just not good at all. If you are going to accept the Queen's Gambit, you need to know what to do after white plays e4. You need to know, and the best thing to do is to strike back in the center immediately. There's various tactics here. Or knight f6, which attacks the pawn. Knight goes here, you create this blockade. Against e3, you have to know one of the lines. You cannot fall for this trap where you lose your queen after 6 moves. Now, your rook after 6 moves. But you'll have to block with the knight or the bishop and not lose the rook. The Queen's Gambit accepted is just a disaster waiting to happen. You completely surrender control of the center of the board for basically no reason at all. You just see free pawn, so you take free pawn. And this is why beginners get absolutely melted in these positions. If you put the pawn on d5, you need to keep it there. Or you need to play a sideline like the Albin counter gambit, the Chigorin defense. You need to strike back in the middle and not just give it up. You can learn how to play the Queen's Gambit accepted. It's not a bad move, but it's a horrible move for like 90% of the rating ladder. And people just don't know how to play the positions at all. Even white, this is not the best move. It's not the best move because black should play for b5 here. Black should play a6, b5. But nobody does that because nobody knows what they're doing. So don't play the Queen's Gambit accepted. And frankly, I would suggest not even playing d5. Now, of course, many of you play the move d5 because you're 1100. Nobody knows the intricacies of the Queen's Gambit. But I would suggest, as you get stronger, to consider adding knight f6. Many of you hear things I say and go, oh my god, I do that, I have to change everything. Not necessarily.
Oh god, that's...
But if you're gonna play d5, stop accepting this gambit. Find a different option. You can decline the gambit, you can play the Slav defense, you can play a counter gambit, you can play the Baltic defense. I mean, there are many options, but stop taking the pawn on c4. Stop it. But Levy, stop. It's not good. I mean, this is not some sort of savior to black's position. If you're gonna put the pawn on d5, I would recommend not taking on c4. If you do take on c4, you hold the burden of proof. You need to make sure you get a good position and not plus 1.3 after 8 moves, which is the most common thing that happens in that position. So these are the 4 openings that I would avoid, okay? I have tried to give you things that I would avoid. I've tried to give you ways to change. I hope it's been useful. Now it's time for the bonus. Going into this video, I thought that the Grunfeld defense by black is something beginners should avoid. And that defense is d4 for white, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, and now not the King's Indian, but this. The reason I've always said the Grunfeld is too complicated is because it's a weird opening, okay? The whole point here is that black strikes back in the middle right away, then plays bishop g7 and tries to play c5. So for instance, if white just plays a bunch of normal moves and doesn't even take, then what's going to happen is black is going to play this move c5. Which just looks weird because it's a free pawn, but the whole point is that black will now play like queen a5. The queen goes out to a5 in a lot of positions, and this pawn can be won back. Like, this pawn can be recaptured, and black gets a lot of activity against the white position. This move c5 is very important. It happens even in the main line of the Grunfeld defense. And again, one of the reasons that I suggested the Grunfeld originally in this video and then removed it is because I was like, well, this is, white gets this enormous center and black doesn't really know how to fight back against this enormous center. Oh my goodness. But I gotta tell you, black wins like 55 to 60% of the time in the Grunfeld. That might be a coincidence, but it actually turns out that the Grunfeld is really not that horrible. I was going to include it in this video, but I think I'm a reformed man. The game plans on the Grunfeld are still a little bit tricky, but black wants to play bishop g4, hitting the knight and removing it from the defense of the pawn. Queen to a5 is always a very useful move as well. Queen a5 after the c-pawn moves, hits this, pressures this, can always slide in here and continue to bully things. Now, if you're going to play the Grunfeld, you really need to learn your stuff, because there, again, just like in the Sicilian, there is the main line that we just looked at. There is also d5, cd5, knight d5, and all the variations where white plays knight f3. Then there's the variation of e4, knight c3, bc3, bishop g7, bishop c4, c5, knight e2. And then there are a bunch of different lines here for white. There is the variation knight f3, c5, and white plays h3, preventing... I mean, you get what I'm saying? There's a million lines. So, the way you can seize the initiative back with black is you can play something like the Budapest Gambit, and now you have like 3 lines that you need to know. The problem is the Budapest Gambit, according to Stockfish, is not as good as the Grunfeld. But when you force the game with black, you win, or with white, and you force opponents into positions, you hit all 3 points of today's video. All right, I'm gonna go back to full screen for dramatic effect. What were those 3 points? Practicality, meaning the opening is easy to learn and you don't need to spend hours and you don't need to be prepared for sidelines. It's very easy to learn. You learn about 5 to 10 lines, you're good. That's number 1, right? The next thing is common. You are going to get the same positions, the same types of positions in the first 5 to 7 moves over and over again, which is going to help you build your practice and understanding of this opening and handling of the middle game plans and time management so you're not burning all your clock time learning the opening, right? And it's easy to understand. You can explain it to people. And if your opponents don't know the opening, you still know the plans. You don't need your opponents to check certain boxes to get you into certain positions to remember what you learned from that course that you took. Those are the 3 criteria of today's video. Of course, the video is open to debate. You are more than welcome to debate with me in the comments. Actually, I really have a lot of success with that opening. I debated with myself. I was going to put the Grunfeld in this video. I actually don't think it's so hard to learn. I actually don't think that the plans are that hard to understand. The problem is that you need to learn a lot of white's different options. But compared to something like the Queen's Gambit Accepted, where, according to the statistics, black is just getting a completely lost position most of the time, that's bad. Okay? So those are the openings, folks. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'll make some more similar ones in the future to help you with your opening studies. I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to How to Win at Chess. This is a series where I take on my Twitch subscribers in 10-minute games, and I go up the rating ladder, walking you through all the phases of the game and my thought process. Now, this episode is a very difficult one. It's the 20th episode of this series, and it's been crazy successful thus far. So I figured that for the 20th episode, we would step things up a little bit. The lowest rated player that I'm playing is 1700. The highest rated player that I'm playing is 2100. So it's going to be very intense. And what better way to spend your bright Sunday morning with a nice sunny outside, birds are singing, than sitting in front of a screen and playing chess. Before we jump into the games today, I do just want to say that to celebrate the 20th episode, all of my courses are going to be 40% off. You can use the code 20, the word, not the number. So if you know how to spell 20, T-W-E-N-T-Y, go check out the beginner bootcamp, intermediate bootcamp, some of my opening courses, or anything in between. With that, we're gonna kick things off. By the way, if you don't know how to get there, the link is in the description, or just go to gothamchess.com. You can't miss it. All right, first game up in the series. I am taking the black pieces versus Vlad. He plays E4. Now, I am going to play different things throughout this episode, but I gotta start off with the ye old trusty. I gotta play my Caro-Kann defense. It's my favorite opening. I've been playing it for the last decade, and obviously the point is that we want to take the center with C6 and D5. And there's actually a very decent chance that when I'm playing against my own subscribers that they play my own course recommendations against me. So actually here we see Vlad playing the advanced Caro-Kann, which is what I'm recommending in my E4 course with white. So this does sometimes happen. So bishop F5 is a move. C5 is what I recommend. I think it's in the Caro-Kann course. I think it's a very decent and flexible move. But let's see what happens if we do play. If we do play bishop F5. So bishop F5 is considered a main line. So bishop F5, H4. This is literally me playing against my E4 course here. The point of H4 is that white wants to play G4 and lock the bishop away with the move H5. So H4 is known as the Tal variation, named after Mikhail Tal. Very decent move. Here, H5 is considered the best move. H6 is considered as a secondary move, but there's another move that I really like to play. Very sneaky move, and it's the move Queen C8. And the point of Queen C8 is that you prevent the move G4. And also, you further support C5. So in the future, when you finish your center kind of solidity, you're going to be playing E6, and then the move C5. And then your queen is actually going to make a lot of sense. Okay, bishop d3. Yeah, in general, whenever this trade is available to us, we like it because, as our opponent has already indicated, they are interested in trapping our bishop. So if we have a way out, we definitely should trade. And you absolutely must play this move e6, okay? Because you stop the white pawns completely in their tracks, so white doesn't get to expand any more in the middle of the board. And then you're going to take queenside space with the move c5. And it's yet to be determined where these knights are going to go. We can't go to the traditional knight f6 square, and that's why in these kind of high-level recordings of Win at Chess, we get into those deeper concepts, such as you can't put your knight on the square, so how do you play against the lack of space? So opponent has played the move f4. They now have 5 out of 8 pawns on dark squares. I'm really liking our light square opportunities over here. c5 is still very much an option. I do also like knight h6 or knight e7 to put the knight on f5. I also like g6 or even h5. h5 is a nice move, just controlling some light squares. It's very difficult at this point to determine which of those moves is the right kind of continuation. I'm gonna go with c5, knight c6, mostly because I don't want you to commit 2 squares for no reason at all. When you commit pawn moves very early, there's no going back. Whereas this is what we want anyway. I mean, we want to expand. We want our knight to go to c6. We want to kind of build that up on the queen side. We don't exactly know what we want to do on the king side yet. Of course, knight h6 looks extremely natural. I should say that a move ago, it was not a natural move to play knight h6 because simply bishop takes pawn. Like a bird just crashed into my window. At least there's trees outside and sign of life. So cd4 is decent. Some of you might wonder about c4 here. I really don't like moves like this. They're just one move attacking moves, and once the queen moves out of the way, you now have the problem of the fact that you haven't actually opened up anything on the queen side. c4 could be okay, but I don't really see a reason to rush it. So I think I'm just going to play the move knight c6. Of course, if my opponent takes, I'm going to play bishop takes c5. There is an argument to be made. I should have just taken and opened up the C file, but I don't, I don't know. And in general, I'll say that in the first like 7 to 10 moves of any chess game that you play, there is a lot that can happen, and a lot of it is just equal. I mean, many things can happen on both sides, and a lot of it is just equal. Now, I will say that in the next few moves, we're really going to understand what strength of opponent we are facing. And what I mean by that is, you know, they're playing a bunch of normal-looking moves. In fact, this move, Bishop E3, actually adds an attacker to this square, but we'll see how good their positional play is. So, you never really want to play B6 to defend, because you'd rather do something with this pawn. Now, between taking or pushing, they both look okay, I must say. Even allowing my opponent to take and just relying on winning the pawn back in the future is not so stupid. I think I will take now. I'm going to take, and my logic is that, again, in the long run, I do think an open c-file will benefit me. Now, I could take again. If queen takes, then my queen is very useful and can take on c2. Knight b4 attacks the queen, but then there's a check, so I kind of get stopped in my tracks. Bishop b4 check is bad because you never want to really walk into a pawn move. Bishop c5 could be interesting. I could just ignore the tension and try to play for knight h6, knight f5. In fact, I really like how this looks. So again, because my opponent has 3 out of 4 pawns over here on the dark squares, the f5 square is going to be really juicy. So is the g4 square, just hopping right between the pawns. I'm not worried about a knight trade. I'm also not worried about knight b5, knight b6, because you just take it. There's nothing there. Only thing when you go to f5 is you want to make sure that the move g4 doesn't just kick you out immediately. It's kind of the same thing like a bishop check. You can just get booted. So if you want to put your knight on a square, you have to make sure enemy pawn moves can't just kick you out effortlessly. For example, the move knight b5 is terrible because a6. And then I kicked out the knight. Okay, so now I can take with the queen or the pawn, and actually both look very reasonable. I think I'm going to follow my philosophy for this game so far, which is opening the c-file, right? The whole queen move justification. I'm going to bring my rook over as well. If the knight develops the c3, then bishop b4 makes a lot of sense, because I can always take and damage the structure. Okay, queen e2 I don't understand at all. I suppose that's trying to control this, but I had no intention of going there anyway. So I really like knight f5. I also really like rook c8. It's very tough for me to determine which one of those two moves is actually better right now. Rook c8, opponent will just go c3. At that point, I have to ask myself if I'm improving my situation or I'm improving it more for my opponent. I think I'm going to go knight f5. So the threat now is to take the bishop and obviously to take the pawn, but there's also a threat of just a very clean fork, which would be nice. I would imagine that my opponent is now going to retreat the bishop to f2, which is a very natural looking move. And you'll notice that I haven't done too much, but I am just completely playing on the light squares of the position. So, right, rook c8 is also on a light square. We're targeting a light square. I mean, I do have a dark square bishop that complements the setup. Like right now, for example, h5 is a very nice move because I prevent the move g4. Only question is, can I do anything faster, like bishop c5? I really, of course, want to play h5, but I'm, you know, maybe queen a4 attacking the f4 pawn, for example. f4 is very weak. Bishop e7, you know, bringing another piece out.
God, what?
I do like bishop c5. It does look very good. I think I will play h5. I think I'm going to kind of demonstrate this this control of the light square. So my knight in f5 is definitely my best piece. It stands very confidently. The enemy pawns can't touch it. And, you know, opponent might already start thinking not about castling this way, because, again, they've committed so many pawns forward. They might consider castling queenside, but if they castle queenside, they're still getting bulldozed. It's a very difficult situation with white. I would imagine that here the evaluation is very close to minus 1.5, like maybe maybe like minus 1. Maybe slightly above that, minus 1.1, minus 1.2. But it could be worse. I mean, the thing is that if white has almost no pawn play, it could get very bad very quickly. So I did just mention this move. I have a flashy move. I can play bishop a3. So there's bishop b4 here, which is beautiful. It's nice. But bishop a3 is hilarious. And then if you take, I take this. But I'm also threatening to take on b2. So, but I think I'm going to go bishop b4. I wouldn't be shocked if after the game we analyzed then bishop a3 was like better. But again, I just want to take. And by the way, if short castle does happen, I even have ideas like this. I mean, white is really not safe here at all. I actually think very slowly we are approaching a -2 and just completely lost position for white, just from a positional standpoint. Too many light squared weaknesses, incorrect coordination of the pieces, and it just goes to show you that at this level, at 1700, these mistakes are still very, very prevalent. And I mean, if you just kind of slow it down and really focus on the issues in your opponent's position, what they can do and what they cannot do, the game plan of your opening, understanding how to flow from the opening to the middle game, and what kind of complexes you're looking at, right? Like this knight on f5, right? Knight h6, knight f5. It's a very high-level idea. It's a very high-level idea. So, and understanding all that, putting it all together. So opponent's just letting me take. They are sacrificing a c-pawn. That's what's happening here. They're sacrificing a c-pawn in order to kind of consolidate and hope for the best. Now, before you just go gobbling this, right? Lower-rated player just eats this up, no problem. I'm worried about queen b5 check, and that's a very important thing at this level, is respecting what your opponent's counterplay can actually be. So before I take this pawn, I almost want to play rook c8. Before I do that. Now, that might be very silly of me. Make no mistake, that might just be absurd. It could just be simpler to just take this pawn, but I am curious to see after the game if this is the best move. If the opponent waits for another move, I'm just going to go here or here. It's going to get real bad. I can castle. Just have to make sure that I'm not hanging this pawn, which is one of the issues of the position, of course. Castles queen h5 can really change the game. Yeah, now we have a big question to ask. Do we move our king out of check, or do we bring the queen back? I think I'm going to bring the queen back. I really don't want to risk too much counterplay. If I play king f8, there could be like queen b7. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the queen back. We did our job, and we're just going to be a pawn up in a much, much better middle to end game. Our knight is much better than the bishop. The bishop cannot touch our knight at all, the way it's standing right now. So if takes, you know, I'm going to bring my king out, and then we're going to go to the next phase of the game, which is 2 rooks and a piece. It's going to be a 2 rook and a piece endgame, and we're gonna see how to put that all together. So important in endgames is piece mobility. So the activity and the mobility of your pieces. This bishop has a bit of mobility, but no targets at all. This is a target, but I'll just move it. The pawn play is almost impossible here for white as well, which is kind of funny. King d2 is a fantastic move, I have to say. That is an awesome move, because now you're trying to take this file. Yeah, very well done as a massive truck rolls by. And even though my knight is good, it doesn't participate in the game as much as I would like. So I'm going to play king d7. I actually like this idea by my opponent. I believe in this idea by my opponent. And now I'm going to use tactical defense. So I could just stop the threat of the rook infiltrating, but there is this move as well. Rook takes, and if bishop takes pawn, I just zip right back, and then I take the pawn on a2, and then we clear out our a pawns, and the board shrinks a little bit. Of course, I could have also prevented the infiltration just with my king,